Hi guys, Toby here with a new video, and this video will be a PvP discussion video for the War Within, and I wanted to discuss a few things that I've kind of realized over probably a lot of playing. I think CC itself has become less problematic to me than like those micro CC that are actually not CC, but they are looking and feeling like it is a true CC, and they are very spammable. Like they are always up or nearly always up. I'm talking about slows. I think slows are out of hand, especially in this expansion. But I would say it has been out of hand since a long time. But I do feel like since the meta is a lot of the specs that can slow a lot, like for example frost mages with their roots and snares, devastation evokers with literally like 90% slow, but to be fair, even like their normal slow is also obnoxious. Their high mobility, decays, doing death and decays, and literally you are like literally rooted. Like if you don't have a freedom, you're just like literally staying there. And if you're like an enhancement shaman like me, like Feral Lunge is a minimum of 8 yards, so if he is like playing smart, he actually outranges you, and a lot of specs are outranging you. But I also talk about like a perspective of melee, perspective of also casters, healers, everyone. I think slows are a bit too heavy right now. Is it because they are responding to the high mobility of the game on some specs, and then some other specs have like no mobility? I'm talking about like let's say priests, where their mobility is just like non-existent, or shamans that are like very crippled as well. Like you could like call them a wheelchair spec, and I think nobody would deny it pretty much. Even Retribution Paladin, how did they become more enjoyable to play is by literally putting range on a lot of spells, and literally their most important spells. I feel like slows right now are a bit too annoying to deal with, and then I'm going to play the devil's advocate. I think slows are needed on a lot of specs, on all the specs really, because of the mobility of the game. Obviously, if you have a lot of mobility, obviously we have shaman and priest that are like very immobile. You kind of need slows, so you kind of need CC to keep them down. Now, the problem is that not everyone has the same mobility, so it feels a lot less fair towards those specs. Even a warrior gets kited pretty easily once he has like charge, leap, and then charge again. Like you have just a few tools at your disposal to actually catch up a caster that actually is slowing you, like for example devastation evoker, or just in general like a priest that tries to get out of a death and decay slow, which is like I think 99% it decays, but again it's like a very big slow. It feels like a root to be fair, but that itself is like very strong and very annoying to deal with. So for me, that is one of the aspects I probably want them to reverse, to backpedal pretty much on it. I think they should nerf all the slows, all the roots. I think it's too insane that a frost mage can literally make someone not play. I think Devastation Evoker being able to be one of the most mobile in the game, but also one of the most disruptive in the game, is just bad design. I think you either have high mobility and you have crap slows, or you are like very immobile and you have great slows. For example, DK having Def and Decay slow, I understand it is very strong, but they are also quite immobile, though these days it doesn't feel like they are very immobile. But I think it's a bit of too much of an overkill. They have already like a great snare, 70%, which is really like Chain of Ice is like one of the best snares in the game already. And I think that should keep like this. Like Chain of Ice is like undispellable, except if you're like doing a freedom, for example. That should be what the slow of decay is. I think Death and Decay slow should be nerfed to the same level as a Chain of Ice. It should be a Chain of Ice AoE. So if the Chain of Ice is 70%, it should be 70% Death and Decay AoE. That would make sense. But I think Deafen Decay literally being a root, because it feels like a root on a lot of specs, I think it's too much. For example, Retribution Paladin having like no mobility, it would make sense that they would slow the target and improve their own movement speed, right? That's a good fantasy. That's something that they had in Rivals of Draenor in Cataclysm as well. So I would not mind. A warrior having a lot of mobility should not have a hamstring of 70%, right? They already don't have it, but the hamstring should be 40%, right? Windwalkers with high mobility should also have a 40% slow. It should not be a bigger slow than that. I think enhancement shaman having a range slow is good, but they have no mobility. What they do need is a ranged root. For example, if I do that, they're rooted because I am too far away. If I'm too close, it doesn't root. Like in Cataclysm, like in Wrath of the Lich King, like in multiple like iterations of enhancement shaman, you had that, but they took it away. But you already have no mobility. This is like uncontrollable. Like this is uncontrollable. So you could overshoot someone. You could literally kite yourself by doing that. Feral Lunge is clunky, has low range, but also has a minimum range. So, for example, if you're here, you cannot charge. You cannot Feral Lunge. So it means that if someone is like literally sidestepping like this, and you're very much slowed, you're not going to catch up. So you have to gust of wind and overshoot him just to try to hit him. So it kind of is silly, and it feels silly too. And I think a lot of specs could need that. For example, again, a Shadow Priest, it would make sense that Door of Shadow is a thing. It would also make sense for Disc Priest and for a Holy Priest, but they should like call it something else than Door of Shadows. It could be just like door of Void or door of Holy or whatever. But I think that should be something that they play around, because it's a cast and you do like get a blink out of that cast. But it's an interesting one because you are very it's an active blink, right? You can really do this and then you're blinking, right? So I think if you have the current slows in the game, and you have to understand, I do feel like Evoker should never get a bigger slow than 50%. It should be 40% with the amount of kiting power they have. This should be really at the lowest end of slows. It should not be a perma slow every single time. You're going to say, but melees are going to catch up on Evokers. But guys, Evokers are the most mobile spec in the game. If they get caught up, it means that they didn't use a hover correctly, they didn't use the breath correctly, they didn't use their time spiral correctly to get another hover, especially with the hero towns where they get a reset on, like even 2 resets on hover, which should not be a thing, but it's there, right? So I do feel like they should really look into that. They should like nerf slows by a lot for a lot of specs. I think a lot of specs should keep their slows. I think Frostmage having slows is great. I think just like rooting every single time kind of sucks. Especially on like whenever you're hitting him and you're getting slowed. That's cool in classic, but in retail it's very frustrating because you already have like so many small hits. It's not like you're going to connect once and you're going to like chunk 30% of their HP. That is like classic. So I can understand why they root whenever you're going to hit him, because they are very squishy. But right now it is not the case. They have double block, they have multitude of blinks, they have like a displacement where they can just like go back on a blink, they have alter time, which is also resetting a blink. So I don't know. Shimmer. People don't play with blink, but Shimmer. But still, I think it's too strong. So they should backpedal on that, try to think about like how mobility in the game should work, in PvP at least. I think in PvE, a lot of people are also complaining about mobility on a lot of specs that have not like that many mobility spells, or none, for example, for a priest. But I feel like they could like literally go back on slows, and it would make the game feel way better. Like I think having given like those bigger slows to Evokers and Death Knights are already, Death Knights already have Chain of Ice. Chain of Ice is one of the biggest slows in the game and should be kept like that. That's alright. But I think Deafen Decay being like a literal root should not exist. It should be like just an AoE Chain of Ice and that's it. If you're taking the talent, it should be not higher than that. And And also, like, not that it reapplies every single time you're like in the death in decay. It should like literally just apply it periodically. Like, for example, every 3 seconds you're in the death in decay, you're getting a chain of ice. So you could maybe, for example, I don't know, like clear your snares with, for example, spirit walk. You can clear it. It's not a freedom, but you can clear the snares, and you don't have time to get out. Now, if you're using spirit walk inside of death in decay, and you have this, they took it the slow talent, which you should, to be fair, then you're getting snared directly. It's not like for the same for frost mages. I think it should be periodically applied, the snares and the roots. It should not like be consistent every single time, every like millisecond reapplied, because then a lot of specs just don't function. But again, micro CC, I think CC itself, it's not like I'm not really against it, so I'm okay with that. And micro CC, it's okay if it's like it has a CD, right? But I think slow is the most toxic thing in the game. Like, really, it is infuriating how slow the game is just because your character is slow, and the roots just make you just not want to play the game. I love the game though, so I'll be playing a lot of it. But I think it's very frustrating to just move, right? And that should not be a thing. It should not be like moving is a difficulty. It should not be. It should be like you have to reach a target. You should be able to reach a target, but the target should also have options to get away from you. But right now, there are too many options to literally make you just immobile, like semi-immobile, because you're snared. But like the snare is so big that it seems like a root. So again, please let me know what you think in the comment section below. I wanted to do a discussion video. I think anyone that played PvP realizes and knows which snares I'm talking about, which roots I'm talking about. I understand that, like, again, because of mobility being high, that you want these snares still in the game, but you do realize that not every single spec has that, right? So you're punishing all of the specs that don't have any mobility options just because of a few specs that have like crazy mobility. For example, evokers, frost mages, mages in general. I would say even DH, for example, even though they're currently not that good. So I think that's I wish that someone has made for Dragonflight and they got it like realized. But still, I think they could like fix that by just doing a PvP hotfix, but I don't think they are able to do so, or I don't know if they're really wanting to do so. That's the issue. Again, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.